Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Alien Addict on this fine and luxurious evening. And it is an absolutely luxurious evening because we've got John Yost, the writer, director, experiencer of Alien Abduction Answers. John, welcome to Alien Addict.
Oh, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
It's great to finally put a face to the film that I've watched.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you didn't have enough of my face in the film.
You know, you are in the film, but there's a lot of faces in that film.
You know, and that's a great point too, because this is not my story. And I say this with all seriousness. This is not my story. This is our story. And I mean the story of our species, really. I think it's one of the reasons that it's so successful is because when people watch it, maybe you can confirm this, when people watch it, they're actually watching themselves. They see their aunt, they see their uncle, their dad, their, you know, whoever. They see their boss. All of these faces, these are real people with very strong educations, you know, worldwide global practices. I've got worldwide designers, people with master's degrees, PhDs, and their moms and dads too. And so when people watch the film, they literally become part of the film.
Can I ask you, before we get kind of into the nuts and bolts of the actual movie,
Sure.
What got you kind of decided to make films? And how long have you done films for?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a bifurcated answer. Let me just say this to you. After school, I worked under the jurisprudence of the U.S. Treasury Department. I was a U.S. Customs broker. I did international logistics and international business for many years. And it just lost its taste after about 10 years. And I'd always been fascinated with the performing arts as a kid and in university. And so I said, you know, I'm going to get involved. And that was difficult. A couple of kids about your age and a mortgage and 2 cars and a very pissed off mother-in-law. But I said, I'm going to change my life. And that's what happened. And so I got involved on camera, behind camera, and then got involved in producing and directing and writing. And for the last 12 years, I worked with a company called Rhino Pictures. And these guys have been around for 38 years. I mean, it's a real company, you know, big staff and, you know, all the toys. And we work around the world and we do all kinds of stuff. I mean, sports, you know, true crime, all kinds of things. And we would do it for all the big players, Esquire, HBO, whomever. And we did commercial work, long format work, done a lot of television and some film. And so about, let's say 5 or 7 years ago, I said to the crew, I said, listen, we really need to start to produce our own content because that's really where it is. You know, when I was a kid, you know, there were like 3 or 4 outlets for that sort of thing. Now there's tens of thousands around the world. And so we started to, and we've done a lot of stuff for, let's say, the food genre, like Food Channel, that sort of thing, or History Channel, Esquire.
John, can I just stop you there for just 1 second? Would you mind your audio, where the mic there, I think it's rubbing on your shirt a little.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's just it's picking up a massive...
Yeah. So you'll be pissed off at me, no problem.
No,
is that better?
That's perfect. Yeah, I just want the audience to be able to hear you properly.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyway, so I got involved in that, not to belabor the point, but but this is actually a great sequel to why I made this film. Now, please recall, I mean, I'm doing sports, I'm doing food, I'm doing history, this sort of thing. And we were on a job. We were actually working for somebody else. And we were in a place called Borrego Springs, California. And it's very arid. It's desert-like, very flat. And we had done a night shoot. We had come back to this house that we had rented. It was one of these huge ranch houses, one-story homes. We had about 15, 17 people with us. And my team and I, we were downloading all the footage from that evening because, we want redundancy. We don't want to lose anything in an airport or something, right? And so I and a couple of the guys, we walked out to the pool area, which was right behind the house. And I sat down and they were going to do a nightcap. And so I raised my glass and there's a glint in the glass. And your mind, kind of races, tries to associate it with things that you know. And I thought, oh, well, that's the moon. It's the moon. And I thought, wait a minute, that's not the moon. We shot tonight specifically because there was no moon. It's a new moon. We wanted to control the light outside. What the hell is that? As I drop my glass, I see something that's very irregular. It was kind of egg-shaped, but not quite. And it was blue and green, and it had its own luminosity. And my mind is racing once again, like, what the hell is this thing, right? And I'm thinking, oh, it's a Mylar balloon, right? Like a get well balloon or a happy birthday balloon, metallic. And
there's a lot of balloons in ufology.
A lot of balloons, except that this thing was as big as a Volkswagen.
Right.
And
okay.
it was about 30 feet above the house. I could have hit it with a ball. I could have thrown a baseball and hit it. And I'm shocked. I'm gobsmacked. I can't believe this. So I grab my camera, one of my camera guys, Scotty, right beside me, and I turn him, and he looks, and he says, oh my. And just then, I mentioned we were with about 15, 17 people. They were all around the pool. They hear and look, and you hear people gasping, and oh my God, and what? And what is that? And this thing, it moves so fast in a zigzag kind of move, and it stops directly above my head. And I don't know if it was there for a millisecond or if it was there for an hour. I don't know. But something happened to me, which I'll get into. But after it was done freezing above my head, it zigzagged away from me, stopped about 20 feet away, and then drifted off. And as I mentioned, the environs are all flat. So we watched this thing for about, I want to say, a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes as it drifted away. Well, everybody is buzzing about, oh my God, what was that? UFO, I can't believe it. And inside I was dying. Because, well, I'll just say this to you. So I made some lame joke about being the old man on the team, and I had to go to bed, and they could stay up and drink, but tomorrow was an early day. But inside, I was shaking so hard. I don't know if your audience has ever been so cold that they can't stop their insides from shaking. Or maybe if you've been sick and you vomited so hard that you can't stop that shaking inside you. But that's what was happening to me. And I made it back to the room that I had. And I'm not proud of this, but I barricaded that door with the bed and all of my luggage. And I sat in a corner and I cried. And I wept uncontrollably. Because what had happened was it brought me back to a time when I was 7 years old. This is the beginning of the movie, as you know.
Yeah.
When I was 7, it was August. It was very hot, very humid. And my bedroom was on the second floor of my parents' home. The windows were open, and it was about, 2 or 3 in the morning. And I woke up to hear this kind of undulating tone. And it was irritating me, and it woke me up, and I sat on the corner of the bed, and I rubbed my eyes, and I couldn't get to sleep again, and I was kind of angry about it, because it was irritating. And I went to the water closet, the bathroom, and I got something to drink, and the water poured for a long time. And I don't know why, but I stood in there for a long time. And when I decided to finally come out, I opened up the bathroom door. And there, standing in the doorway, to my complete and utter surprise, was a character I had seen 1,000 times on television as a little boy, this character called Ultraman. He was from Japanese television. Now, for those who don't know, Ultraman is this gigantic, giant, metallic-looking, big, huge eyes, oval head, and he fought the bad guys. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. But again, he was a giant on television. To me, though, it was my size. I was 7 years old. He was size of a boy. So at the time, I had no fear when I first saw him. And we got very, very close. And I'm talking about nose to nose. And then something did occur that frightened the hell out of me. I've explained it this way. If you've ever stood on a beach and the water comes up over your ankles and the waves are going back out, it starts to pull the sand from beneath your heels.
Yep.
And you feel yourself dropping. That's the way I felt. And it petrified me. I felt like I was falling into an abyss, and I flailed like a drowning man, right? As a drowning man does. And I literally laid hands on this, whatever this was. In the middle of...
You touched it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And in the middle of that, there was this brilliant flash of light. And I felt movement, but I couldn't tell. And I couldn't really see, except there was this blur of colors, red and blue and green. And they were moving so fast. It was almost like being on a carousel, but it was moving way too fast. I couldn't make out what I was seeing. Or on a bullet train. And I couldn't make out the landscape. So I'm in the middle of this. And then when I kind of come to my senses, I'm still in mid-struggle with this Ultraman character. But what I've realized is something incredible. We have somehow interpolated our positions. This entity's back is in the bathroom, and my back is in the hallway. So I'm in the middle of this struggle, and I say he, I don't know if it was a he, but he reaches out and literally touches me on my left shoulder. I feel this tremendous wave, like a wave hitting you in the chest, a brilliant flash of light, and I am thrown back. And right behind me were the set of hardwood stairs that went to the first floor. So I bound back, and I'm falling ugly. I mean, it's not a control fall. I'm falling. My arms are banging against the sides of the walls, and I am screaming like a banshee. Well, I land in a heap at the bottom of these stairs, and I am screaming and crying.
So you're in pain?
Oh, a lot of pain and shock and total fear. And my parents, who had a first floor bedroom, come around the corner. What the hell's going on? And I'm trying to make it out of my mouth. I'm screaming, and I'm saying, Ultraman is upstairs, and I'm sure my father heard intruder. Somebody's upstairs. So he was a big guy. He ran up the stairs, and he was going to find out what was going on. And he opening doors and slamming doors. And after some time, my mother is consoling me at the bottom of the stairs. And my father comes to the top of the stairs, and he looks, well, to be honest with you, he looks disappointed. He looks kind of disgusted. Looks angry that I had awakened him. And there was nothing up there. So my parents take me upstairs, and they do what parents do. They open up the closet. There's nothing there. They'll show you what underneath the bed. There's nothing there. And they lay me down in my bed, and my mom kisses me on the forehead. And I have to tell you, I basically fell into a coma. I was exhausted. People ask me how that could be, and I just think it was, that fight or flight that had rushed through my system and all that adrenaline pumped. And when it was done, I was just like a limp rag. So the next day, I wake up and remember.
Can August. I just ask
please.
You before we get to the...
Please.
At the time, were you ill or anything like that?
Oh
Can
no,
you remember that when you went to bed, that you may have had a fever or anything?
no. I actually am very rarely sick ever. Um, all this COVID and everything else. Nothing against anybody who had it, but I
There's
kind of
no.
I almost mocked it because the joke in my family is that I'm impervious to all this stuff. But no, I was not an ill boy.
Lucky man, lucky man.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jem, for the super chat. I appreciate that. And
yeah,
Shah John
yeah.
does.
Well,
Um,
at 7, I wish I was sick so I could get off school, right? But I never had those types of days. Um,
so the following day,
Following day, I get out of bed and I have a little bit of breakfast, and this is the 1970s. Today, you can't get kids away from their phones or game console or the screen. But back in the 70s, I mean, you ran outside and you were outside all day. You played until it got dark, and that's what I did. My mother called me in for dinner, and in my mind, I knew exactly what happened, but it was almost like, for anybody who's been a little boy and been picked on, I'll say it was like you got into a fight with a bully. And so you remembered everything, but it wasn't part of your life. You're moving on with other things. And so I came in, my mother said, "You are disgusting," because I've been playing outside all day. And she said, "Look, you're going to get a bath before we have dinner. And I'm a little boy. I don't want to take a bath." She's struggling with me a little bit, takes off the t-shirt, and she's looking at the bruises from the night before. And she gets to my left shoulder, and she says, "Honey, what happened here?" And I look around sheepishly and I say, "Mom, I told you, Ultraman was in my room." And she said, "It'll be okay. It'll be okay." And she looked kind of sad. And so I had dinner that night. I don't know what the heck it was. And went
I've
on
seen the
about,
scar. I've seen the scar, but at the
yeah.
time, can you remember? Was it a wound or was it like?
No, it looked exactly like it looks now, except, well, I'll just say this: today, and all through my life, it's changed colors and it changes temperature. It gets warmer and it becomes hot sometimes, and it's a different color than my body most of the time. It's not always flesh color, and it's as big. I'm a tall guy. I'm about 6'2". It's as big as my thumb.
Yeah.
So it's like this big. It actually looks as though it's a thumbprint. It looks like somebody had, and it's raised too. It looks like a scar, as though I had been horribly burned. So I didn't think about it. A couple of days later, my father's taking me to the doctor's, and as we pull into the parking lot, the car park, I guess you guys call it, he says to me, "Listen, when we go in there, I don't want to hear any of this shit about Ultraman. You keep that to yourself." And I mean, now that I'm an old guy, I'm sure he didn't want, him to have the crazy son, right? So the doctor gives me a cursory exam. He checks me out. He's examining the bruises, which are now, starting to yellow, that sort of thing. And he gets to my shoulder and he says, "Whoa, sport." He says, "What's this? What's this?" And I started to just answer him like, I'm an innocent kid. I have no idea the import of what's going on. And I start to say, "Well, and I could see my father in the corner. And once again, there's a time change here. This is back in the 70s. Today kids mouth off to their parents, and that's smarter and, enlightened. But back in the 70s, that is not what you did.
Yeah.
And my dad
That's not what I did to my dad either.
Yeah.
I get the slipper.
My dad was a big man. He was a big, big man, and he worked in the mills, and he had hands like leather. You did not cross him. So I didn't cross him ever. I was a good kid. And but he gave me the look, and I knew what the look meant. So I said, I don't know. I fell. Must have been playing. I don't know. So the doctor looked at it, manipulated it a little bit, so asked me if it hurt. There was no bleeding. There was nothing like that. And gave me a lollipop and sent me on my way. And I didn't think anything about it until my father was taking me home later. And as we pulled into the driveway in front of my parents' home, he said to me, listen, I never, ever want to hear you talk about this Ultraman character again. I don't want you scaring your mother. I don't want you scaring your sisters. You shut your mouth about that. Never talk about it again. And again, as I say, I'm a 7-year-old boy who adores his father, and I'm a good kid and never sick. And so I say, sure, Dad, I don't understand the import of why I need to keep this to myself. So throughout my life, it became kind of this kind of running joke. I was involved in sports and things. And so you'd be in the shower, you'd be in the locker room, you take it off. Somebody would say, hey, Yost, what the hell happened? I got bit by a shark. I got hit by lightning. Somebody speared me. Somebody shot me, whatever. But it was a quick and easy. People laughed about it, said you're an idiot, and nobody talked about it.
Psychologically, you wouldn't
yeah.
speak about it.
Well, I lied about it. My dad told me to lie about it. I lied about it as a little kid, and then it just became a habit. It's like you. Look at you. You put that hat on, right? Did you say to yourself as you sat up, I'm going to take this particular hat and I'm going to put it on my head, and this is the one I like to wear? No, that never happened.
No, it did happen that way.
No,
I normally wear this hat.
Yeah, but no. But what I'm saying is, you got up and said, "Okay, I'm going to do the podcast," and you put it on.
Yeah,
that was it. No, it was just a reaction, muscle memory. So this is what my point is that for my entire life, that's the way it was. And also to tell you the truth, and I've mentioned this to my crew many times after the film has come out. This is not a real resume builder. The head of General Electric has not called me to take over the CEO position because of my admission. So anyway, I had kept that to myself and shut my mouth for 45 plus years. And
you never asked your dad about it, ever? What?
No. And several years later, my parents broke up. They had been married for 11 years, and they had broken up, and there were other things, survival took over. And my mother was a nervous person, and so I never brought it up. I was afraid. My father had told me I would scare her, and so I did. I love my mom, so I wouldn't have done that. But I never talked to them about it. But I sincerely believe that they knew something had happened because they were skittish. And I say that it might have been one of the contributing factors for their split, but I don't know that. I was a little kid. I don't know that. And so I never thought about it. It was always in my mind. I could remember it clearly, but it wasn't something I talked about. And so here I am. I bring you all the way to the present, which was 3 or 4 years ago, Borrego Springs.
Yeah, John, do you mean and thank you, Moonlich. Appreciate that, my friend. Do you mean that you think your dad may have knew about this Ultraman and knew exactly what it was?
I think he knew that something had happened that night. I don't know what his real thoughts were and how they looked to him, but when he heard my story, he was shocked. And like I said, he didn't say anything to me about it until we were alone on that doctor's visit. And he made mention of it twice and very emphatically. And then he never talked about it again. And it left such an emotional, the way that he had told me, it left such an emotional kind of imprint on me. That's why I never talked about it, ever. And until what happened in Borrego Springs. And so there I am, just about my business, right? With, we're working for somebody else. It's another project. I've got a whole team there. And then this thing happens, and all of a sudden, everything comes crashing back. It wasn't that I had forgotten about it, but the emotional content of what had happened, I had never dealt with as a little boy, ever. I had never talked it out. I had never worked it out. Anyway, This thing comes crashing down on me. I'm in my room in the corner, weeping like an idiot. And I'm not dealing with it like a 50-year-old man. I'm dealing with it like a 7-year-old boy. And I'm so angry with myself. I'm so frustrated with it because, if you do what I do for a living, you have to be very, very anal retentive. You have to be in control, always, always, because you're spending other people's money and there's no room for error. People think about show business and they hear about goofy people and drunk drivers and parties and everything else. The guys who turn the wrench, who actually make the stuff, we're all a real serious bunch. And so the next day I got up early. I'm there in the desert. I've got this crew and I'm bolting out after a hot shower. I'm going to take this, by the horns. And I start to fuck up in very obvious ways. It's so obvious that my team starts to notice. And I'd worked with them for 12 years. And these guys are like, there's something wrong, and I'm missing. And then instantaneously, too, I have now developed a petrifying fear of big sky, big open sky, and a petrifying fear of open water. I can't, the night before I'd been out by the pool, I can't go out there. I'm supposed to scout new location. I can't go by myself. I cannot go. It's debilitating. And I have to tell you, you don't know me, but if you knew me, you would know how enraged I was. I was just, and I was angry at myself because I could not stop this fear. I was possessed by it. So to make this long story short, I get through the shoot, a couple more days out there, right? And somehow I get back on a plane and I fly back thanks to Jameson triple distilled Irish whiskey, copious amounts of that. But when I get off the plane, the family notices something's wrong. It got so bad that I would go to work early, about an hour early, and park right next to the door and wait for people to come so I could run in the door with them. It got so bad that if I couldn't do that, I would run like a maniac to my car. Now, look, I am not a good-looking man, but I am an ugly crier, and I am a retarded runner. So I am telling you something. It is a sight to behold. But I could not control myself. And so it got so bad that I was angry, and I thought, I guess a wiser person would have looked for some help, sought out a therapist or something. But I couldn't do that. I was so angry at myself and embarrassed because this was something that I knew had happened. And I had always been fine with it. But I started to read and I said, listen, I'm sure that other people have had experiences and they've dealt with it. So I want to find out for myself. And then that developed into interviewing people. That developed into me sharing my story with them. That developed into me filming them and giving them copies. And then that developed into something that I think that everybody who's listened to this is probably as plain as the nose on their face. But I had never dealt with it. I had never thought about it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that moment in the bathroom when the flash of light happens and the colors are flying all over the place, and then somehow I switch places with this entity. I didn't know. I couldn't tell you what happened there. And I remembered everything else clearly. I remembered all the details, all of the tactile feelings, but I could not tell you what happened. And so at that point, these good people that I had started to interview pointed me towards this woman in the film. Her name is Deb Shakti. And she said, listen, John, I can help you with this. And I kind of poo-pooed it. I have to tell you something. I'm not a misogynist.
John, the mic.
Sorry. I'm not a misogynist. But I have to tell you, I thought this little tiny person, I'm about 6'3", and this little tiny person was never going to be able to, knock me out or whatever. And I kind of poo-pooed it. She said, look, I'm not going to do anything. All I'm going to do is teach you how to relax enough to go down that hallway that you constructed, John, to go into that room that you constructed, to go to that filing cabinet that you constructed and open the drawer that you have put this information in. And so we had done a couple sessions prior to the film to see if I could be hypnotized or relaxed. And we didn't deal with anything. I said, look, I just want to be able to relax. I don't want to talk about any of this. And she respected that. So the regression that you see in the film is raw. It is not edited. It's actually 6.5 hours long. But we could only put maybe, 10, 15 minutes in the actual film to make sense.
Is the whole thing filmed, though? Is the whole
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, what had happened was we had set up all the cameras and we didn't want people there. So they all skedaddled. They got out. And then we had the building to ourselves. And then, we did the work. But it was 6.5 hours long. There's a lot of information in there that nobody knows. But when you watch the film, that is actually happening. It is not reenactment. And it was extremely hard. It was extremely hard for me afterwards. After the session, I couldn't look at it. I felt somehow relieved, but almost like after you sprain your ankle. You felt like a bruise, It wasn't hot pain, but it was ache. And I couldn't look at it 4 days. But then after that, like 3 or 4 days later, I was able to watch it in bite-sized pieces. And I was angry at myself again. Like, fuck, this is me. Why can't I watch this? But watching myself as a 7-year-old boy reliving this was extremely difficult for me.
So, at what point did you decide after that, I need to make this film?
So, well, we were, like I said, I had been talking to people and starting to record some people. And I realized, here's the thing that totally blew me away, that there were hundreds of thousands of people, dare I say millions of people, that have had some sort of contact. Maybe some sort of, maybe it wasn't an abduction, maybe it was something they saw, maybe it was something that affected them. So, and I realized that if I couldn't be the only one who was just quiet and suffering, I realized that somebody out there might want to know and may never have the guts to ask those questions. So I thought, you know what? Maybe if I can be the scaramouche, I'll ask the stupid questions. I'll look like the fool. They can laugh at me. And I will go this path, walk this path. Somebody said something about a tarot, the cards, that I'm the fool in the tarot. And I'm walking along this path and people can walk with me and see me ask those questions, those uncomfortable things that people don't want to ask, and somehow give them some sort of solace. I mentioned to you earlier about making the film has given me a measure of peace. And I really just want people to have some piece of that. This film is supposed to take people from ignorance, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean ignorance meaning not knowing, ignorance, which produces fear, to some sense of understanding. I've taken some guff about the name of the film, Alien Abduction Answers. Oh, you're, an answer man. I said, look, it's not the answer, right? It's not the answer. What it is they're landmarks that people can associate with, because everybody's different. They experience things differently. And they can say, oh, I can relate with this. I don't relate with that. And that's why there are so many other people involved in the film. As we mentioned, when they look at the screen, they see their aunt, they see their dad, they see their uncle. These people are us. This is not my story. This is our story.
Oh yeah, I
And
mean, like it's from Jennifer's kind super chat there. As you can see, everybody has a different story. I have had many people tell me stories on this channel. I've never had anybody see Ultraman. You
well,
along this journey though, making this film, you got in touch with. Did you get in touch with Whitley Strieber, or did he get in touch with you?
yeah, that's actually a kind of a funny and pathetic story. The funny story is this: is that I complete the film, and I'm looking at it, and I'm dissatisfied. And I say, listen, we really need some sort of cogent way to have synopses throughout here that kind of encapsulate what's happening. Because as you've seen the film, there's some very emotional moments. And so it was important as a viewer to experience that as a catharsis, to go through that with me. But I wanted people to understand that there's more levels to understand this than just through fear. There are other levels. And I thought, who better, who's been more prolific in this subject, alien abduction, than Whitley Strieber? Nobody on the planet. And so I wanted to get to him and see if he would participate. And so Deb Shakti, who was involved in the film as a therapist, she knew some people who knew him. And it was interesting because, and this is the pathetic part, I I begged my way to get to him. And then at that point, he interviewed me. Yeah, Willie Strieber. I don't want to say that we're friends, but we're very friendly. We speak maybe every 5 or 6 weeks. But he is a very careful man. There have been a lot of kooks, because there are a lot of crazy people in this business. There are a lot of people who are charlatans, who are egomaniacs, megalomaniacs, and he wanted to make sure who I was and what
In ufology, you sure?
It's true. It's true. I know you're a young man, but it's true. But so he wanted to, and so he put me kind of through a rigorous sort of thing. And then to be completely clear with you and your audience, I read every book at that point. I read every book that he had written on the abduction scenario. And by the way, the man is very prolific. And I put together a series of questions and I sent them to him. This is something that's there are two things that I'd like to say about Whitley Strieber. Number one, I asked some very hard questions. He never asked me to change a single question. He never asked me to change one of his answers. He never asked for any cuts. I gave him everything. I gave him the raw. I gave him everything. And the second thing I want to say about that is this. I said, Mr. Strieber, I promise, sir, that I will, in fact, make you look good. I'm not going to put any kind of goofy rabbit ears behind you. I promise you, this is a serious thing. And he looked at me. He stopped me. He grabbed my arm, and he said, "John, I don't give a damn what I look like." He said, "I just want the truth." He said, "I just want people to hear the truth." And I thought, wow, what a man of integrity. And so like I said, we're not friends. In fact, I've known him now for a couple of years. I can't bring myself to call him Whitley. Everybody else calls him. I call him Mr. Strieber, and I think he gets a kick out of that. He's actually a kind of a sarcastic sort of guy when you start to talk to him, and so he teases me about that, and takes the piss out of me a little bit about that. But I call him Mr. Strieber. And as you see, so as you go through the film, you're with me and you're experiencing all of this. And then we kind of cut to Whitley, who kind of takes what's happened and really encapsulates it and shares with the audience, look, beyond the fear, here's something to look at. Here's a way to process this experience. Here's a way to process this understanding. We talked about, Ultraman just a few minutes ago. And then we got into screen memories and how that protects our psyche. And I, as a little boy, used that. My mind automatically used that kind of as a blister to protect me from what was happening. And so, so that's why Mr. Strieber's involved, and how I begged him and went through a gauntlet to get him in the film.
Yeah, so some of the audience are asking, and Jen's asking about getting in touch with Mr. Strieber Whitley. Is that something that's quite hard to do?
It was hard for me. It was hard for me. My very best suggestion is he is on Facebook. He's on Twitter. Also, he has a website called The Unknown Country, theunknowncountry.com, theunknowncountry.com, and he has a contact page. And so feel free to do that. But I could never give out his personal information.
Oh, no,
You know,
no,
yeah,
we're not
yeah.
asking it. No, don't worry.
Yeah,
No doxing here.
yeah. No, but that's how I began to do it. So, Jennifer, I hope I answered your question. I don't mean to be elusive.
No, when you said you're not friends, how many times did you meet up?
I went to California to meet him, and we met, and we had a dinner together with the crew and this sort of thing. The very next day, I sat with him for about an hour, and we chatted to kind of build some sort of rapport. And then we did the interview, and the interview lasted all day long. And since then, like I say, I've had a lot of contact with him, especially during the editing portion. We were talking about maybe every other day, but now we speak maybe every, And what I mean by we're not friends is that I would never, like I call him Mr.
Yeah.
Strieber out of respect, I would never claim that. Now, if he said that, I would hug the man, but I would never claim that. I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, well, Yost said that he's a friend." No, that's not the case.
So, what made you pick the experiences that you used in the film? And did
Sure.
you put every single one that you interviewed in the film?
Yes, everybody that we actually interviewed. Well, let me put it this way: we went through a sort of weeding out process.
That's what I was going to ask you, like a vetting.
Yeah, a vetting. There were, and I have to tell you, most people think that, so you have to take the people out with the tinfoil hats and this sort of thing. As you've seen the film, some of these conversations are extraordinary. So it wasn't about that. It was about the people. It was about them. Like I say, this is not my story. This is our story, our species story.
But how do you vet them?
Well, first of all, we had asked throughout, the people that I was already talking to, and people would approach us, and they sent us, say, a small paragraph about what they had experienced, and then we had, remember, it was during COVID, so we had a lot of Zoom conferences and one-on-ones with them and asking them about them, and we did a lot of discovery on the individuals. Like I say, this is more about the people than about the experiences. Because look, I could put an absolute loon on camera, do the very best special effects, and everything would be great, and it would be shite. These had to be real people. These had to be real experiences. These had to be genuine people who care about what they're doing and also had something to lose. If somebody wanted money or they wanted some fame or I wasn't interested in them. As we talked a little while ago, about charlatans and insane people in this business. I'm always, and I say to all my friends, look, if I ever try to be that guy, please punch me in the throat, because that's ridiculous. This phenomena, it's so big. It's so big. I've used this example before. I don't know if you've heard the analogy. I'm sure most people have, about, it's a completely dark room and you throw three scientists in there and you say, what's in there? And somebody yells out, well, it's a spear. No. It's a boulder. No. It's a whip. And you turn on the lights and it's an elephant. Now, each one of these scientists is a trained observer, and they are reporting, quote unquote, their truth, right? They're not trying to obfuscate. They're not trying to lie. but they're only telling what they can consume, what they can comprehend. All of us together have the answers. Not me, certainly not me. Me last. But so I'm always cautious about people who have the definitive, you have these, and I'm sure you bump into, everyone is an Arcturian and they're here to eat babies, or they're all reptilians and they work for this guy. You may know some of this, but you may not. And
Well, I've been trying to get David Icke on the show for a while, so I know about the reptilians.
Well, no. I mean, once again, I'm not, and what I said is not to mock anybody in particular. What I'm trying to say is the only answer is elusive, and it's too big. Look, the universe is gigantic, and one of the reasons that we've doubted since the beginning of time that there was something out there is because it's too big. There's no way. Think about it. There are three types of people. You've got very religious people who say, look, everything is a result of a creator God, right? Then you've got intellectuals who sit back around a campfire and say, you know what? This could be intelligent design, but I think maybe it's a simulation. It's, some great architect and designing. We're part of code and we're in a matrix. And then you got everybody else who says, listen, I think there's something out there that we don't understand what's going on. In all these cases, even the last ones who are like total deniers, maybe, they believe in the Big Bang. In each one of these cases, we still have a source. We're still part of something bigger than us. And this is why I stop myself and say, I don't know that anybody has the answer. That's why my film continually has open-ended questions for people to continue along their path. It's important for us to question, because the moment that we know everything is the moment that we cannot learn anything.
This film is not yet out in the UK, but it's out in the States.
Yes, if you're in the UK and you want to watch it, if you have a VPN, you can absolutely get to it. But it is in North America, Canada, and the United States. It'll be worldwide later this autumn.
Well, do you mind, John, if we play a trailer for the audience?
My friend, your show. You're the boss.
Let's play a trailer then. Let's bring the trailer up.
Yes, sir.
I do want to get onto something in a moment with you, though, John,
sure.
Which somebody has asked me, which is an interesting question.
Sure.
But can I just ask, while I'm getting this trailer, what's your blood type?
My blood type is O positive.
Right. Okay. And did you ask about your the people that you interview in the film? Did you ask them about blood types?
No. And let me say to you, I know why you're asking. Okay, but I know today. Remember, you are watching a man scratching in the dirt and in the dark in this film. I have plans for 2 more films that take viewers on the path. As I said, the first film is called Alien Abduction Answers. This is taking people from ignorance and fear to some piece of understanding. The second film is going to be called Alien Abduction Awakening. This is where we take this information and we start to integrate it, right? And then the third film will probably be Alien Abduction Ascension. And I don't mean ascension into flying off into the sky. I mean, it's kind of like this. As children, we laid in the cradle, and then we crawled, and then we walked, and then we stood, and then we ran. That's the ascension that I'm talking about, because that's what we're capable of.
You want a trilogy then?
At least a trilogy. Because this elephant is too big to eat in one bite. People who are very, very experienced, who have been in this business or in this world of paranormal and stuff, they may find the film, I don't want to say trite, but they might find it remedial. But I will say to you this, that no matter where you are in life, you haven't considered every contingency. So there'll be nuggets of truth here. But in addition to that, for people you were talking about earlier before we got on the air, about people who have no belief in this at all, have denied it completely. This would be a great film for them as a teaching tool for them to say, look, you think that you control everything, but you may not. Here's a possibility.
Well, I do think you've got your work cut out, because I think you're going to need like a Friends trilogy, sorry, a Friends box set.
I understand.
For anybody to understand ufology, for anybody to even comprehend it.
Sure.
Because I think
I think it's huge. And I also think, though, I think that we confuse it. You know, before you play that, let me just say this, you know, we're a fighting people. And I'm talking about every man, woman, child. You know, go on Twitter and say, Happy Wednesday. You'll have people who will get on there and say, what do you have against Tuesday? And then somebody will come on and say, you're a Thursday denier. What are you fighting about? People are more focused on being right than being correct. And I want to be correct.
Don't we all, my friend? Right, I'm going to bring the trailer up in full, and for the audience to get a taste.
Yes, sir.
If I can work out how to do it. There we go.
Things began to change in our life. That was the beginning of a real descent, almost into madness.
144 separate sightings of UFOs by the U.S. military.
Tonight, the highly anticipated report on unexplained aerial phenomena is here, but the answers are not.
This is not communication. It's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. And it is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft.
I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
He saw two shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth, is to know.
Well, there we go, people. There we go. So John, it's still playing in my ear. There we go. The film itself, it's got quite a few experiences in that film. Do you still stay in touch with these guys today?
Yes. You know, there are a couple of things I want to say about that. Number one, I did not know them from Adam. I met them as we were doing the film. And secondly, not a single person in the film, including Mr. Whitley Strieber, was paid a dime
Oh, wow.
Was not paid a dime. And I relate that back to what Mr. Strieber had said about, I just want it to be real, the truth.
So they all just volunteered there.
Yeah. So think about this. I mean, I said to you, this is not a resume builder. These people, they sacrifice whatever kind of privacy they've had for this. And so, yes, in fact, after it, what happens, during a film is you become close to the people that you're working with. But in addition to that, because we've shared that kind of other experience, it was important for us to continue dialogue throughout the editing process because there were new things that were coming up. For me, I don't recall anything that happened between being 7 years old and, when we were working on the film. But I find out, I don't know if you recall, but during my regression, I find out that I had been abducted several times prior to that. But things like today, there are, I work about an hour and a half from my home, not 3 hours, not 4 hours, an hour and a half. So when I show up 3 hours later, there's something wrong, something going on. People are waking up outside. Security's on, doors are locked. How are they outside? So there was a lot of things like that going on. In addition to that, these are the people that you see on camera are not actors. They are genuine people. These are people with lives and jobs and families and kids and lovers, and they are some of the best people I've ever met. So yes, in fact, I have kept in touch with them, and I consider each one of them a dear friend.
What do you think? What do you think of the alien grey, the typical alien, and how it looks?
Yeah. What specifically are you asking about?
I'm wondering, do you think that's what they actually do look like, or do you think that's what they show themselves? Because you saw Ultraman.
Yeah.
Do you think that underneath Ultraman, do you think that is the grey?
Well, as you see, thank you for the leading question. You're good at this, by the way. You should do this. You should do this for a living. I was not abducted by greys. I was abducted, and you find out in the film that it was more kind of an insectoid type of entity.
Yes. I didn't know if you wanted to discuss that.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I told you at the beginning I would hold nothing back from you or your audience. It's more of an insectoid. And so when I was taken, I wasn't taken on a ship. I was taken somewhere subterranean. And there were other entities there. And they had some similarities to the gray that people know, but they had kind of elongated faces, almost like horses. So I'll just say this. What do I think about the gray? I think that to limit the creator, limit space, limit universe is folly. I use a little example in the film. Elon Musk is talking about his desire to put a colony on Mars, right? So in my little parable, this rocket takes off from the United States, and these people get out of the rocket, and there's somebody from Africa, there's someone from Asia, there's someone from Europe, there's someone from Scandinavia, and out comes this little Martian, and he looks around and thinks, well, which one of you is an Earthling? And they all are. And they all have different agendas. And one might be military, one might be scientific, one might be recreational. And they all came from one ship, from one planet, in the backwaters of one medium-sized galaxy. My point is that this thing is huge. Are there room for any one of those? Of course. Take a look at the diversity on our own planet. Those people lined up against each other. Yeah, there's some similarities. They're bipedal, but they're totally different. So yes, are the grays? I do believe that. I don't know because I've never seen one. Mr. Strieber has seen them, and he claims them visitors. He doesn't necessarily claim they're aliens either, and we deal with that in the film as well.
Yeah.
The form and function and design and size and look, the reptilians we talked about, the insectoids, tall whites, whatever, and probably 1,000 other types of forms. I have no copyright on that, and I would never claim to know that. Yes or no?
You used in the film, you showed some clips of like the classic, the gimbal footage, the tic tac and what have you. What do you think? Do you think that's them? Or do you think that's ours?
I have to tell you that I do not mean to be a difficult guest.
No.
But
you say what you want here.
I have something strong to say about that. You seem like a nice fellow, and I think about you. And if you had a car, and that car could go 2,000 miles an hour, regardless of where it was made, regardless, and you were a nice person, and you stopped for that little old lady, and you obeyed all the speed limits, regardless of how fast your car went, and you were a good guy, no one would give a damn about your tech. We are so focused on the shiny lights in the sky, we've missed the major point. It's the cat in the cockpit that we should be focused on. The second thing I'll say about that is this. What the gimbal and the other videos that are coming out and the admissions by the Department of Defense and the military and the DoD in the UK, all of this, to me, it means something different than, hey, look at the tech and what's the origin. I like, as I've mentioned before, I'm an anal retentive guy. I put things in boxes. So let me put people in boxes. You have 3 types of people. The first type of people are the ones I like to call banksters. They've got their head in their books and their calculators and their phones, and they look down and they what is all this bullshit? This is all crap. People are idiots. They have tinfoil hats. They're full of shit. I don't give a damn about this, and they're fools, right? Then you've got the other ones who sit back and say, like I mentioned, intellectual design, and this is interesting, and but the truth is, maybe they exist. Maybe what does it have to do with me, right? And then you have the third type of people, who maybe you and maybe me, who consider ourselves kind of in this world, and kind of figuring it out at the same time. Look what all of these admissions or disclosure has happened. What has happened? The paradigm that has changed is earth-shattering. Watch those 3 buckets. The first guys, the banksters, and they're, you're a bunch of full of shit. What do you mean the Department of Defense is involved? What? What are they looking at? These people, women and men, they look up for the first time in their life. Now watch, though. We have to be careful about this. We have to clarify this. They look in the sky for the first time in their life, not out of curiosity. They've been given permission to. See, because if they see something, no, they're not fools. They're not crazy. They don't wear tinfoil hats. They could be pilots. They could be military people. They could be presidents. They could be ministers. And they look up with expectation. What are these people seeing that I don't see? That's the first thing. The second thing, let me just finish this. The second thing are those people who muse, intellectually, with the smoking jacket and the pipe, and this might happen, whatever, but don't understand the connection with themselves. They say, what does this have to do with me? They say, wait a minute, wait, the Department of Defense and the government, and they're spending my tax money on what? And they look up for the very first time in their life with the same sort of permission and expectation. And then the third lot, like us, who've been saying, well, welcome to the party. This has changed everything. And we don't understand it. It's kind of like medicine. If you have a headache and you take some some aspirin. Oh, it'll work in about 20 minutes. This is starting this change in people. It's going to change the paradigm. We're going to see the world through eyes. Imagine a world when everybody thought it was just you and me. And then for the very first time, we saw somebody from Africa, or the very first time we saw somebody from Asia, or from Polynesia, or from the Middle East. I didn't know those people existed. Now your life changes, how you act changes, what you think, how you make your decision changes. Imagine, if you will, if we, all of us, knew, not speculated, not thought about it, not, what are you, a Thursday denier? What if we knew? How does that change who we are and what we do? I muse in the film. I said, what is it about the shiny lights in the sky that make me examine my own life? Make me want to be a better person. It changes you, and it's definitely changed me.
Well, we spoke briefly before we came on live, and I did mention Stephen Greer and the lights in the sky.
Sure.
And he states that it would change everything. You know,
I think he's right, and not to poo-poo Dr. Greer's work. I mean, I think he's done incredible work. But my point is this: that's not the end of the sentence. There's a comma or a semicolon or a colon or a dash, and there's more to it. Because if it was just lights in the sky, well, there it is. Full stop. Who cares? Now what does it matter? I see lights in the sky. What does it matter? Oh, wait a minute. There's someone piloting those lights. There's a consciousness. There's an entity. There's a being. There's a person. This is an entirely different thing, because now we have a relationship. There's something that can be possible. There's, after the ellipse, there's something more. So I sometimes take some criticism from people who talk about, oh, you're downgrading this work. No. There's earth-shattering work. What I'm saying is we're into the next phase. Okay, we've had the lights in the sky. Yes. What is behind the lights in the sky? Who are the pilots? Who are the people? Who are the peoples?
As a documentary filmmaker that is now dipping his toes into the UFO field and experiencing yourself,
yes,
and interviewing experiences,
yes, sir.
Do you feel that how to put this? So the UFO community is very much split down the middle right now. And we don't know where to look or who to trust when it comes to people like Lou Elizondo. I have no idea if I trust the guy or not. I have.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what you think of what's going on in the community from somebody who's just kind of only just entering. And I mean that with all just due respect.
No, it's factual. It's factual. You're absolutely right. I'm a newbie.
What do you see? You're an experiencer and interviewing people who've had experiences. But what do you see from all the work that people have been doing over the years, trying to find out what this is, with Congress and
sure,
everything that's going on right now?
100%. I think their work is heroic. Look. My government, your government, the governments of the world have lied. They've obfuscated. I still love the story of Area 51. Absolutely no Area 51. Too. The guy standing outside the sign that says Area 51. There's no 51. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And then they say, oh, well, there's 51. Look, sharks eat, they defecate, and they reproduce. That's what sharks do. To ask a shark to do something different is asinine. Okay? Governments only do two things. They tax and they control. That's it. That's what they do. Everything they do is a permutation of those two things. They tax and they control. So anything that you're going to get out of a government has to be dragged out of them. And you have heroic people who have beat the crap out of governments to get that information. And I think each and every one of those women and men are geniuses and should be praised for their work. Now, the ones that have taken it, add their own seasoning to it, their own obfuscation, well, that's between them and God and the people they led to, right? Okay, that's an entirely different thing. And I can't judge that because I don't know any of them. But what I will say is this. To me, the truth lies within the influence of those lights, the influence behind that wreckage, the influence behind that metal or that sighting or that film clip or whatever. And I'm talking about the intelligence, the consciousness that drives it here. There's a reason. There's a reason. Listen, why do we explore as human beings? Well, some of us do it for the thrill, right? Some of us do it for conquest. Some of us do it for... There are reasons that these things are happening. I have my own opinions about what that is, but I could be wrong. I see a lot of proof. But once again, I could be wrong. I don't have the answer. And I just, as far as Blue and those guys, I hope and I pray that they're telling the truth. I hope and I pray. But the people who have one-on-one experiences are the key to this entire thing because they have been there and done that. It's neat to see something in the sky. It's great. It can change your life. But having one-on-one experiences will change you in a way that is so fundamental. And this is what I'll say, especially, I come from a family full of women, so I'll speak to the women out there. Let me say something to you ladies. I'm sure that some of you have had children and people talked about it and you read it about it in books and you saw pictures of it. You went to all the Lamaze classes and everything else. Did you really know what you were getting to until you had the child? No, you didn't. I say that for the fathers as well.
Yeah.
Or any experience. Listen, have you ever been do you remember the first time you were at the ocean? You saw pictures of the ocean. You understood that it was a large body of water. The moment you walked out there chest high and got knocked on your ass by a wave, then, my friends, you know what an ocean is. So all I'm saying is this. This is one of the reasons that my documentary is so much different than everybody else's, is most documentaries are made by investigators who are super intelligent people who have codified all this stuff and designed and calculated and put things in box, which I really admire, as you know. But the truth is there's no heart to it. They look at it like a scientist. It's an abstract to them. It's a third-person narrative. So you see a clip and you hear Walter Cronkite say, back in 1957. Okay. In this film, you're inside. You're visceral. You're living it. You feel the pain. You feel the joy. You feel the revelation. And that's the difference between experiencers and people who have experienced outside, meaning they've seen something incredible. It's wonderful. It's amazing. It could scare the shit out of them. But the truth is, the folks that have had one-on-one interactions, it is a different thing. And people on both sides will argue with each other. Once again, Thursday deniers. But we know in our heart, see, like I said, people are they're so focused on being right. They've lost the idea of being correct. Those two experiences that I told you about the ocean and having a child, this should tell everybody the truth, and they should know it in their heart.
We as people that are into this field and many experiences, some experiences know, but we always class them as coming from space. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe they may just be here?
You know what? Once again, you should do this for a living. You're good at this. This interviewing gig you have. Instead of you would ask me a couple questions earlier about, they look like and the species. I don't think that that's a way you can really approach it. The way I specifically approach it is I put in sources, if you will. I say agencies, but all I mean is origins. Okay. And I think you're dealing with like 4 or 5 origins. First of all, you woke up today in your air-conditioned home, had your latte, went to your air-conditioned office in your air-conditioned car, whatever. Humans have been dealing with nature for thousands of years, but not today. Very few of us really do. Maybe on a sport or on a weekend, but the truth is, day to day, we're anesthetized to all of that. And something from the beginning of our history has spoken to us, this natural intelligence, these lights in the forest, the wee folk, leprechaun, fairy folk, the good people. There's some sort of intelligence that Gaia has. There's enough energy here and some sort of consciousness that we have bumped into occasionally in our experience that people have called alien. That's a source of some of this stuff. And I've experienced some of that actually on my search. It's not in the film, but I could tell you that story. But I've experienced something like that. And that is alien to some. We also have to admit that our governments have lied to us. So some of the stuff that people have encountered as abductees or people have seen things in the sky, we have to allow for some of it to be tech. You ask me about the gimbal. Is it Russian? Is it China? Is it US? Is it France? Is it whatever? We have to allow that some of this is tech, right? They lied about the Blackbird and the B-2 bomber. And of course it is. Okay. So some of it is that as well. We, as humans, have been around for a couple 100,000 years, but the Earth is 4.5 billion years. Rome lasted 1,000 years. The U.S. has been around for 270 years, but we're an advanced society. Come on. There's possibility that there have been civilizations here in the far past that have been destroyed by cataclysms or comets or floods or whatever. And we have some of those tales in some of our ancient writing. So think about it today. People are talking about Russia and maybe they're going to set off a bomb and maybe it's World War III. Well, what do you think the governments of the world are doing, the scientists and the rich people? They all have bunkers, right? They all have bunkers. They're putting their gold and their silver and their food and the continuation of government. Well, imagine if something terrible happened. They'd go down there. They'd stay down there, and if radiation, maybe a couple people would survive, but not many. Those people who saved topside, in a couple of generations, all they're teaching their kids is how to survive and find roots and whatever. They don't know about language or alphabet or calculus, right? And the rest of them have had a pretty decent life underground, and now they're kind of adept at living under there. Maybe they want to stay there, and occasionally they come out. And we see them as aliens, right? Or gods. And then you have the obvious. The universe is immense. There are trillions upon trillions of stars. For me to say that there is no intelligent life in the universe makes me a fool. Even people who are super religious and deny anything alien. Listen, where is your God? Where are your angels? Guess what? They're not earthlings. They are, by definition, extraterrestrials. You prove my point.
Are you an atheist?
No. Actually, I was born Catholic. I was born Catholic, and I firmly believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. I firmly
Thanks, Alien Girl.
Yeah. So I believe in 2 things: love God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul, and treat other people as you would have them treat you. And I think everything can be wrapped up in those 2. That's what that guy said.
So do you think if we had the disclosure, then do you think religion would fall apart?
That's an interesting question. And I think part of that is true, but part of that is bunk. Let me say this to you. Disclosures happen. People have said, well, why aren't these guys landing on the White House lawn or, in front of Buckingham Palace? Why not? In 1952, there was a formation above the White House and the Capitol. We sent up fighters. They were going to shoot them down. Some of the most secure airspace in the world. We didn't catch them. They evaporated. We brought our fighters back down. They came back in the same formation above. You can look it up. 1952. There was disclosure. They've been around for a long, long time. Okay? Disclosure itself has happened. What we've done with it is we've denied it. We've obfuscated it. Some of us have accepted it. Some of us have been smacked in the face with it. And our governments have known about it. Okay? So disclosure is here. What I have learned through my journey making this film and understanding these things is this. It is very soon, in my lifetime, the Thursday deniers and the Wednesday haters and the Tuesday, whatever you are, there's not going to be an opportunity for you to deny these things are here. This revelation is going to be made clear. As I told you, the paradigm has changed. People are now looking up with expectation and permission, and actually, dare I say, duty to report. Right? More of this is going to happen. And what's going to happen to us is we are finally going to recognize. Let me give you a very good example. This is an example of how the human mind, I don't care what sex, what gender, I don't care your education. This is how the human mind works. Cortez comes to the new land, and he comes with his ships, and they're going to find the gold. He has about 400 sailors with him. This is history. He comes into the bay, and his men start to mutiny because they see on the hillsides about 40,000 indigenous people. They think, man, this guy's going to drive us up there, and we are going to get slaughtered. So they fight amongst themselves, and Cortez eventually ends up having to burn his ships to keep his men together and says, look, we are either going to get the gold or we're going to die together. So that's the story we know. Flip the story because there's another part of this. After they came on shore and they started to learn a little bit and talk to them, they found out the perspective of the people on the shore. And this is the perspective. One day, a great fog came into the bay. And they could hear men speaking, but they could not see anything. After a few days, their shaman, their wise guys, their wise men, they walked out to the shore, and they could see shadows, but they could not see people. And they could only detect them after a few days when a small boat with a few men rowed into shore with gifts. And then after that, gradually the fog went away. Now there was no fog. What happened was the minds of those people, the eyes of those people had nothing to identify the tall ships with. They had never seen them before. They had no reference. They could not, in fact, identify what they were. That's one of the reasons they thought they were gods, because they appeared out of nowhere. But there was nothing wrong with those indigenous people's eyes. There was nothing wrong with their minds or their education. It was a piece of the way we process information. And I tell you, my friend, there are things around us everywhere that we do not detect. When's the last time you tasted air? Right? Let's suppose you and I, let's suppose you and I, okay, you and I are soldiers, right? We've been conscripted, and we're standing on this hill, and the bad guys are on the bottom of the hill, right? And it's midnight. And we have these really high-tech glasses, and we can see infrared, and we can see at night, right? And I look down, and I'm a bit of a coward, and I see these bad guys coming up, and I take the glasses off. And I say, whew, that was a close one. Thank God they're gone. Well, I think I'm about to have a difficult evening, right? Okay, so wait a minute. We're not talking about something mystical here. We're not talking about something otherworldly. We're talking about hardcore tech. We're talking about something that everybody that in your audience recognizes what I just said and realizes that's absolutely the truth. By taking those glasses off, I am maimed. I cannot see what is right in front of me. So tech allows me, look, a couple of 100 years ago, people could not understand that something other than bad spirits caused illness. Then along came the microscope, and we detected microbes and viruses and bacteria. Okay, so here's a question to you and to your audience and to the UFO community. Did those bacteria and viruses and all that stuff, did it spontaneously create the moment that there was a microscope? Or were they always there? They were always there, brother.
It's a good way of putting it.
Always. Always. We are catching up. And we are about to be blown away.
You know, John, I hope you're right, because we talk about disclosure, and I've heard many people, including yourself tonight, say it's already happened. To me, it's happened when my wife goes, "You're right," you know.
But let me ask you something. Is disclosure? Think about the words matter. You know, in today's world, we've changed the meaning of a lot of words. I don't mean to be political, so let's.
No, we have for no reason.
But you know, like certain things have meant the same thing for hundreds of years, and now they don't mean anything. Okay, but think about disclosure. Disclosure is like revelation. It's finding out. It's discovery. It's the proof. Okay. Do you ever have? Do you have a grandmother?
I actually do still have one. Yeah.
God bless you. I had a grandmother. The tease about her was this: you never confused grandma with the facts. She didn't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't. Listen, disclosure happened. There are a lot of people who don't want to know. Disclosures happen. A lot of people have identified it with evil. The disclosure has happened and says, well, listen, it won't be real until I see it, I taste it, I feel it. Right? Disclosures happen. So the wording is important. People use it kind of as this moniker for this unveiling, and everybody will understand, but it's truly not the truth. Disclosures occurred. What we're doing with it, how we're understanding. The first time somebody saw those microbes, that was disclosure that there was microbes. Did everybody understand it? Did everybody know what it was? Did they make a drawing? No, scientists were like, what the hell is this? And they started to dissect it and figure it out. And this is what really I think the push needs to be. It's number one. We have to understand the disclosure is us, because the whole problem is us. It's our ego. See, look, we control everything in our life. The sun comes up, the sun goes down, I pay my taxes, this is what I do. I like it in control. Anything outside of that, oh man, that's crazy talk. That's bunk, that's nuts. Right? That's spicy food that I have never tasted. That must be bad. You tell your kids to taste it once, right? You know, you got to taste that broccoli. It's good for you, you know, but it's ugly. It looks like a devil tree. I don't want to eat it. You have to taste it. You have to experience it to know if you like it or you don't. This stuff is here. People have denied it, obfuscated, not looked, or purposely looked the other way. Because they all want to control, and this is that ego. They want to control that narrative, use it for themselves, for their own particular reasons. And that's why I eschew all of that stuff.
John, can I ask you and your team, going back to before you even decided to make that film, when you saw that UFO out in, was it in the desert?
Oh, when it happened in Borrego Springs? Yeah, it was above the house, yes. We were in the desert, yes.
Yeah. Did you had a team of 12, did you say? Was it 12?
No, there were like 15 or 17 people with us. There were people who were on camera, there were crewmen, there were camera guys, there were drone guys, there were audio guys, there were, grips.
So a lot of filming equipment. Did you capture it?
No, like I said, we had come in from a night of shooting. We had packed all the gear away. We were coming off for a nightcap, right? So all the cameras and everything else was being downloaded onto hard drives. And then we came out for a drink. This thing happened. I'm sitting in shock. People are around the pool. Everybody has a drink in their hand, like, oh my, what is going on? I can't believe this. And they were completely gobsmacked. And then at the end, everybody asked the same question. Did anybody get that?
What a bummer.
Yeah.
You see, sometimes I wonder, even if these things do show themselves, I wonder what somebody would capture.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
because you know, when you're looking at UFO footage,
sure,
you,
sure.
you can never truly make it out. I've never seen one. I've never seen. I don't. Even the ones that that have come out at the recent days that every rants and raves about.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen one. I just want to see that one that does something just marvelous. You know.
And you know what? If we gave it to you, if you had it,
you'd say it was fake.
8,000 people would say it's too perfect. It's bunk. You know, think about it this way. What we're dealing with is we're dealing with something that can bend our physics that obviously does not fit into any of the paradigms that we have. So our filters and all of our tools are built for us, right? Even those night vision glasses, they're built for our eyes, remember? And so your eye can only see this much, right? You can only sense this much. Your ears can only detect this much. You know, you can't hear what a dog can hear, right? Well, okay, so a dog can hear this much. Are there higher sounds? Are there higher sounds? Are there, and all of this stuff is vibration. I mean, you know, you think your table is hard and it's solid. That's not true. The truth is, if we could have a powerful enough electronic microscope, you would see that all of the atoms, the molecules, are vibrating, and there are spaces between them. So if you could raise your vibration fast enough, you could push through that, and it would seem like it was fungible. The truth of the matter is, we're dealing with something in a different sort of physics that I'm not saying our governments, our scientists, I'm talking about you and me, we don't understand. So it's moving at a speed or in a way or vibrating at such a thing that our filters that are built for our eyes are capturing what we can capture. But just like those scientists in that dark room, we captured a tusk or a trunk or a tail.
So your film Alien Abduction Answers, it's out now in the States. It's coming to the UK, but you can watch it if you've got a one of those things.
VPN.
VPN, yes.
Or the DVD is available on Amazon.com.
You're making another 2 films.
This is my intention, yeah.
You did mention to me offline Ray Hernandez, who I've interviewed twice.
Yeah. Great man.
Are you discussing getting that guy on?
I have interviewed Ray for other projects, for other people. He has some new books. I don't know if you know this, but his new books are just out.
Yeah.
I read his first book, 4,000 pages, made my eyes cross. Got a lot of smart people.
I can see where you'd need to read. That's good research for you, because
without a doubt,
that's about people. It's a lot of people's different experience and how he narrows it down.
Certainly. And there are, everybody on those projects are all PhDs. These are very, very heavy thinkers. They're very deliberate speakers and writers. Ray Hernandez hopefully will be part of the next projects. But the key for me is, and I think I don't mean to wax, stupidly, but I think the special sauce of the film was the real people, the people that people can relate with, who are just genuine and honest and telling the truth. And I think it's important. And I have to tell you this too. It's very difficult for me to outline these films. The first one was not outlined at all. Like I told you, I finished it and I thought, oh my God, it's missing all this stuff. And I had to think about Whitley Strieber. I don't know what's going to happen in the next one, right? I kind of say, okay, this is where I start, and I'd like to go in that direction, which is more information and integrating this thing. But I have no clue where this is going to lead me. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a really smart guy. I use small words. But I am on this quest to find out, quote unquote, the truth. We were teasing earlier about people talking about my truth and my truth. I'm an old guy. Back in my day, if people said my truth, it was usually an opinion that no one else had. So everybody has their truth. That's fine. I'd like to find out the empirical, what is at the origin of this thing? Or what is truly the source of this? Is this all a simulation, like people say? And are we bumping into that? Glitches in the matrix? Are we, in fact, conscious beings that are somehow living a three-dimensional life? Have we kind of pushed ourselves into this reality? Are we connected? Ray Hernandez talks about consciousness being primary, which means that everything around the world is consciousness. And all we are is really kind of like antennas. So consciousness is not in our head. We're just like antennas that are plugged into that field, and we are experiencing it this way. I've used an example. People have a hard time with that idea. Like, how can we be pressed in? Think about it this way. You and I, we go and we're at a pond, and you push your face into the pond, right? And literally breaking this barrier between out here and the fish. And the fish swim up and they see you. Now, they've never seen a fish like you ever before. I don't know what you are. You're incredible. You move like no fish has ever moved. They don't understand you. And eventually, when you have to take a breath, you pull out. But here's the most important part, right? They have no concept of anything they can't perceive, right? So all they perceive is your face. They have no idea that your face is connected to a head. It's connected to a body. It's connected to an entire life. And people and bills and relationships and things that have nothing at all to do with those fish, right? Nothing at all. But they have no concept of this. And so when you pop out, literally disappear from their plane of existence, they tell their friends, they come over, there's no evidence. So that fish is an idiot, right? Because there's no proof. What are we really dealing with? I haven't made determinations on that. I am still asking these questions. I am still trying to integrate them. I am wise enough to know that I am not smart enough to know. And I am on this path. And all I invite is people to come along with me and discover it with me real time.
So, John, I'm probably going to get this question, and this is a very generous Jennifer. You've been so generous tonight. But who do these people contact? And I think if you're going to do a new film, are you going to be looking at getting new people on board with talking about their experiences? Or is it going to go in a different direction?
Well, it's like this. I'll answer the question this way. Remember, I'm starting from square one as a boy who is living with trauma. Okay, as an older man now, dealing with this, and this is what this film is about. That number one, recognizing this thing happened, their physical traces, a bit scarred, and actually dealing with it for the first time. Okay, so now I go out and I find out that not only is it me, it's everybody. It's some people have repeated experiences. Some people have a few experiences. Some people have one singular experience. Jennifer has, repeated experiences. I don't have repeated experiences.
I will send you my interview with Jennifer, actually.
Okay. Okay. So beautiful. Please. So, all of these things fit because they're all, number one, they're not all the same source, right? Maybe the entity or the consciousness that contacted Jennifer is totally different than mine, right? Remember that ship with all those different people? Maybe the good guys contacted her, the bad guys contacted me. I'm just making this up. Okay, using small words.
No,
right. Okay, so I don't know, but I am on this path to find out. Is it more about us? Do we call them to us? I have this feeling that Whitley is completely right about communion and communication. Because in all of these situations, I don't care if they're lights in the sky, they come to Dr. Greer, if they're Bigfoot, to come to people in the middle of the woods, to dogmen, to the big cat, to whatever, to spirits and mediumship. I don't care what any of that is. It's all communicating something. There's a message there. There's something. There's some reason that we're interfacing. It's not by accident. Okay. Why? What is it? And how does it? Because why is probably the answer that will fit. I'm sorry, the why of the communication will probably answer the question of why me or why you or why you. You know, if you are prolific in another language, okay, I speak German, right? And if I was in America and some guy was screaming his head off in German and everybody looked at this guy and said, wow, you know, what the heck's going on with him? I would walk up to him and I would speak to him in his native language and we would get to the bottom of it. We would figure this out and calm him down or whatever. Okay, because I speak his language, right? I think what's happening is that this consciousness, these entities are observing and they can read. How do they communicate? They communicate with light and feeling and emotion and color and shape. In almost every person will talk about that. Some of them have communication, but most of it's telepathic, right? Why? What is it about these people? Perhaps just like some people have better eyesight than others, right? Some people wear glasses and some people don't. That doesn't mean that the people who wear glasses are bad people. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that some people are more sensitive to light. Perhaps there are more people who are more sensitive to that communication. You know?
Yeah. We haven't got much more time left. But there's something that about your film that does stick in my head, and that's seeing something as a child, like without giving too much away. Because I have seen the movie. I'm not going to give my opinion on the movie because it's that's not what I do. I find it extremely interesting that you saw Ultraman, and one of the experiences saw a popcorn making that would scare the living daylights out of me. I have to say that gave me goosebumps. That bit there. But you do hear about kids seeing. Anybody who's got kids, they'll come down and tell mum and dad that they've seen something in their room, or you know, and we always say, oh, you know, come on, I'll take you back to bed. There's nothing there. Maybe we're wrong as parents, you know. Maybe there's something there.
Children absorb. That's why bad parents make bad kids.
I would agree with that.
And good parents make good kids. Now, they make their own choices after they become adults, but the truth of the matter is they absorb like sponges everything around them. That's how they learn how to talk, what they like, what they don't like, the music they listen to.
Some parents can be bad, though, I have to say, and they and I do know some very good people who've had shitty parents.
Yeah. But my point is this: is that children absorb without judgment.
Yeah,
they don't qualify whatever they're receiving, right? They don't qualify. So when they say they see something, they've seen something. We have all the filters of our entire life placed into it. Some of them are our choices. Some of them we've been programmed. Some of them have been in public schools. Some of them in the news. This is why we buy the jeans we buy and like the drinks we like. Because everybody is skinny and have a six-pack on their stomach who drink Coors Light. I think that we should listen to those children, because in that scenario, I think you're the guy, or I'm the guy, who have taken off our night vision glasses. And we think, it's okay, there's nothing there. But the child sees clearly.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think kids do have a natural ability to see things that adults just can't. I got told from a very early age that I'd seen something and gone and told my mum that I'd seen a white lady. I can't remember it. I'd seen a white lady in my room, apparently, loads and loads of times, over and over again. I can't remember that, but my mum said she see no reason why I'd lie.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, and Jennifer again. I get that you've answered. I get that you have not answered my question. Where do we go for answers? It's a hard one, Jen. I don't know where do we get the answers from, John? The film?
Listen, watch the film if you want to, but I wouldn't say that's the answer. I would say the only way, and I mean this, the only way to get the answers is through more experience. How do you know how it is to bear a child? Is to live through it. How do you know what it is to dive into the ocean? Is to dive in. And that is petrifying sometimes. And it could be dangerous to your psyche, if not to your body and to your soul. But as I said in the last part of that film that you showed, the trailer, even if I had to live with the fear, I had to know. That was more important. People make decisions all the time. To go to bed early because they have work the next day, or to read that extra chapter in the book. They make a decision. What is more? What is it worth? And to me, what happened was I reached that line in the sand. And that's why I was compelled to do the film. I was compelled to do the film because I had no other choices. I wanted to know.
You're seeing from a live show, and I'm sure when I go back through the chat, I do apologize, guys. I just super chats. I do see them because they come up in big flashing colors, and I concentrate on the guest. But you do see from these comments that people are frustrated. The people who are the genuine experiencers are so frustrated, and they're looking at people like you, John, to deliver. I mean, it's in the title of the movie, Alien Abduction Answers.
I think they'll find some answers there.
I'm glad you said you're not going to get the answers there, because it's a great. But it's a start, you know, talking to real people.
Yeah, talk to real people. There are some answers there, but there are more answers that I'm looking for. What I can say is this. A lot of people, when I do these podcasts, they reach out to me. And I'd be happy to share anything I have with anybody. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. On YouTube, if you put comments on this particular, I answer all of them.
You'll have to drop me your Twitter so I can put that in the description as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I am on the search. I am unabashedly, like a fool, running headlong into danger. I don't know. Into worry. I don't know. Into glory. I don't know. But I am committed to finding those answers, because I was as frustrated as you guys are. And I just couldn't live my life anymore without knowing. And that was what was worth it. And I have to tell you, that's a dangerous thing, because you lose opportunities, you lose friends. I have lost friends. I've lost family members. But what's most important to you? My dear mother, who was Irish, Finnegan, she used to say, son, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll do something. And so I know that sounds kind of banal, but that's the truth.
Well, John, before we go, just let the audience know that may have just joined the show, what your film's about, and where they can find it. It is in the links in the description, people. If you want to check the trailers, the trailer is there, and the full film is there. And let me just say, this is not a paid for interview. I'm getting nothing out of this. I'm just doing an interview.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank all your listeners. Thank you very much for putting up with me for as much time as you have.
Well, you're welcome back on. I'd like to get you on with Ray Hernandez. You know, I speak to Ray now and again. So
he's a glorious guy. I really enjoy him. Smart guy too. The film is called Alien Abduction Answers. Right now, it's on Amazon Prime and iTunes and Google Plus and YouTube and on Amazon.com, all throughout the United States and Canada. And if you're overseas, if that's where you live, from the States, you can get it if you have a VPN, or you can buy the DVD. And what it is it starts off with me and how I was abducted as a 7-year-old boy, and how tragic and scared out of my fucking mind. To me struggling with it as an older man, much older, I'm gonna cry. To me saying, well, this is what I know, and I know that what I don't know is more, and so I'm searching for those answers, and I'm searching for them for Jennifer and for you and for me and for everybody else. And I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to look foolish, but let me be your fool. Look over my shoulder, or sit in my pocket as I ask the uncomfortable questions, and we find out together.
Well, John, it has been a pleasure having you on. This week, people, we have Mike Rogers on Friday night. He will be making it this time. He's got his microphone at the ready, and he's looking forward to it. So, yep, it's going to be Mike Rogers, the crew team chief, whatever, of the Travis Walton case. So it's going to be interesting. Looks forward to that. But John, it's been an absolute pleasure. Good night. God bless, people. Mind the books, don't bite. I'm Alien Addict. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to everybody who supports the show, whether you contribute financially to the show or whether you just give a nice thumb up and share it out to your friends. Whatever you do, I love you all dearly. Thank you so much. Good night. God bless. Mind the books, don't bite.